Hi, this is Anita from the Global Trade Gal. As there's been a lot of talk recently, especially in the United States, about tariffs, a lot of people have asked, well, why can't you just produce something anywhere in the world? And there's a lot of reasons why. It's not as simple as everyone seems to or may think it is. It really is actually quite complex. And today I want to talk about one of the reasons why Vietnam has become one of the top destinations for home decor and furniture manufacturing over the years. There is no doubt at all that Vietnam has become one of the top destinations because of the fact that China has had a lot of tariffs and anti-dumping and other things placed upon it. So Vietnam has been one of the countries that has really benefited from all of that. When we quote prices in China or quote a price in Vietnam, a lot of times our China prices is cheaper. And this might surprise a lot of people. And there's many reasons for that. One is just simply the supply. That in China, you can find everything you need to produce things right within China itself. China has a huge amount of factories that can basically supply everything that you need. For example, if we're producing a piece of furniture, we can find the wood suppliers in China. We can find the hardware suppliers in China. We can find all the parts, all the pieces, everything we need within China itself. Vietnam, you can usually find it, but you might find yourself having to import a few things. Like, for example, the wood they will usually import. Some of the hardware they will import, some they will not. It depends upon the product. But because factories have been moving here and they've been producing things like the hardware, wood suppliers have been coming in, you can readily find these things in Vietnam than maybe you can in other parts of Asia. So here are some of the reasons why Vietnam continues to be a place to produce many different types of home decor products. One of them is that there's a deep culture of craftsmanship. The other advantage you find here in Vietnam is you find that there's a lot of these handicraft villages. I always say one of the big differences between China and Vietnam, or Mao and Ho Chi Minh, if you want to look at the leaders during that time period, was when Mao came into China, he decided he was going to make China become this great powerhouse of manufacturing. So he had all these policies put in place where he basically killed a lot of the smaller villages. And, people at the time, there were, all these different types of things that he had going on. One of them is like the Great Leap Forward, where he told everybody, bring your metals. We're going to, melt down all your metals. So people were melting down all these metals in these backyard places. And it was really inferior metal that was going on. So a lot of these industries that you had the Cultural Revolution too, which, didn't believe in anything old and for everything that was new. So China had a lot of these policies that got put in place where a lot of these handicraft villages that they once had maybe, ended up being a bit more destroyed, or the people left the areas and they went somewhere else to work, normally in southern China. Whereas Ho Chi Minh, from what I see, Ho Chi Minh did not destroy the villages. In fact, he kept the villages intact. So when you come to a place specifically like Hanoi, you will find outside Hanoi, there's a ceramic village that has 800 years or, whatever of producing ceramic. So this is, passed down from father to son or from family to family. And they've been the family has been continuously producing ceramics for 800 years. You go out to lacquer villages, find something similar. Bamboo villages, weaving villages, brass villages. So you have all these villages and these small, little tiny, what you call like workshops that have been producing the same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, this is, in Vietnam, there's a lot of skill that has been passed down from generation to generation. So there's some skilled labor here that may not be in other places. You also have a very young, skilled workforce. Vietnam is relatively a young country. There's a lot of over half the population is young. And so you have a very young population here, but you have a population of about, I think it's like 96, 97 million people now. And, half of those are young. So you've got this workforce that's coming in. Whereas in other parts of Asia, you have, an older workforce where in Vietnam you have a younger one. So you have a young, energetic, and highly capable workforce where a lot of them are actually educated. The literacy rate in Vietnam is actually quite high. It is, in fact, higher than many Western countries here, where it's over 95% of the people, can read and write. You have competitive production costs, which of course helps to drive the price down. When the tariffs came in, I recently quoted some furniture in Malaysia and quoted some furniture in the Philippines. Both of them were higher than Vietnam. And, there again, it could be lots of different factors, but I found that the prices were, some of them were significantly higher. So you have competitive production costs here. Vietnam usually had some strong trade agreements. We're going to see what's going to happen now with the tariffs coming up, but of course, that's an unknown for everybody. But Vietnam has had very good, strong trade agreements. The Vietnamese tend to be very practical. Surprisingly, the infrastructure here is relatively good. Yes, you go down to places like Ho Chi Minh, and I have to tell you, the roads are terrible down there, but you don't have to travel very far to get to the port. But, Vietnam is building new highways, new port systems. Electricity is relatively stable. They have industrial parks. They have, logistics hubs. So, Vietnam has really been investing in the infrastructure. There's a lot of ethical manufacturing and social responsibility here, where they are, committed to a lot of the ethical practices and social responsibility practices, which makes it an ideal place for many people to look to manufacture here. People have often asked me, do you see children in the factories? And, in Vietnam here, I don't see children in the factories, and I don't tend to worry, about slave labor and those type of things. Most of the children are in school because education here is very important, especially in the major cities as Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. They have a lot of different types of products and product ranges, everything from metal to natural materials to wood, ceramics. There's lots of different types of finishes here, which also makes an ideal location. A lot of the Vietnamese factories, because they're not as big as the Chinese factories, they are very flexible with minimum order quantities, which for my industry can be great because we're in the medium to higher end. And so, because of that, they can be pretty flexible on a lot of they can have lower minimum order quantities. They are able to make a lot of custom items, and they can work in smaller production runs, so it can be more niche, which can be great for, places like Europe who's looking to produce, or like I said, for my industry, which is medium to higher end, where, we are not buying 10 containers of one item. So, at Mindoro, we really try to work to take advantage of Vietnam and the Vietnam's ability here. And we have worked here for many, many years. In fact, we were here early since the 2000s. So we understand, have seen this development and this change going on within Vietnam itself. So we really feel like Vietnam is a place that's going to continue to grow. Like all countries in the world, it will change. There will be changes that certainly will take place, but it is a manufacturing sector. And it does have a lot of things that, like I mentioned, other countries didn't have, where they have a young workforce that's willing to work and wants to work. And, because of that, I believe that Vietnam will be able to manufacture for many years to come. Of course, the government would like to see, manufacturing of high-tech automobiles, other things like that is still going on here too. But they still do have a really large handicraft type of industry and furniture industry that I believe will continue to grow for some time, especially if the tariffs which have been put on the United States will become to a more reasonable rate. This is Anita from the Global Trade Gal. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to be able to read my blog on this, you can read my blog post on why Vietnam is a top destination for home decor and furniture manufacturing. We'll put a description, the link below, that you will be able to understand a little bit more about this and why we feel the way we do, about why Vietnam is a top destination for home decor and furniture manufacturing. Thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate you, our listeners, and press that subscribe button. Join with us and subscribe. We'd love to have you be part of our community. Thank you.